Jake Villier. I'm in the Army Reserves and I've been commissioned for 2 years.
How did you become interested in this career?
So I was in high school and I'd kind of decided that ROTC was something I was interested in college, so I went down the ROTC path. And then after 4 years, I had a 4-year scholarship, so my senior year I commissioned into the Army Reserves. So kind of like I'd mentioned, you have to have a 4-year degree. So I'm an officer in the Army Reserves. You can just enlist straight into it, but I wanted to go through college first and get my degree. So I had to do that, and then throughout college you have different classes and training courses from there. So on the officer aspect or officer side of it, you have to be a leader or be able to be in a leadership position, have a commanding presence, be confident in your ability to complete a task, and be able to communicate and direct to others what needs done. So the reserves is a little strange as far as like salary goes, because you're only drilling 1 weekend a month and then 2 weeks out of the year, but they have all the pay scales online. So right now I'm first lieutenant, so you can look up the pay scale for a first lieutenant for every drill salary. When I commissioned as a second lieutenant, it was 18 months before you're eligible to be promoted to first lieutenant. So I promoted after 18 months, and then the next rank, of captain, it's just more time in rank essentially. So a lot of it's time based on the officer side. So it varies a lot, as I'm sure you can imagine, depending on the training that we're doing. So typically on a drill weekend, we go into the Reserve Center. So my unit is in Chambersburg, Pennsylvania. So I go to the Reserve Center there, and then, which is kind of like an office setting, at least to start. So we have, conference meetings, that kind of stuff to go over planning. But then we also have a bunch of vehicles that, soldiers drive around, to get their driver's training. Other times we'll go to so last year we went to California, Camp Pendleton, to do training there. So we were there for 2 weeks, doing different fueling training, that kind of stuff. So it kind of varies depending on, what month it is, what the planned training is. For me, being on the officer side, it's more administrative, logistics, planning kind of thing. So when I go in, we kind of have like a leaders meeting to start, plan out the weekend, what we want soldiers to be doing. We disseminate that information to our platoon sergeants, who go down the ranks to the soldiers to get things done. We kind of check in. We, like I said, have to do a lot of the admin stuff, make sure everyone's good on their dental, all their medical stuff. They're good to be deployed, would that happen. So it's a lot more admin stuff, but then when we actually do training like in the field, it's kind of getting the mission from higher and then facilitating that mission. Main benefits on the ROTC side was having like discipline and foundation going through college. Benefits now being in the career, it's nice because you have a lot of your medical stuff paid for. So I get like free dental and free, other medical care through the Army. It's nice to have, the Army in general just has a lot of opportunities and resources that you can reach out to, especially on the family side. Like if you have a family and your family is, struggling with things, you can reach out to them. If you have friends that are, in a bad place, they have resources for that as well. And then you asked about like cons, right? Pros and cons. Yeah. So the challenges, mainly it's kind of weird because you have to not really put on a face, but you have to go into that like Army mode being in the reserves, because you're a civilian for 27 days out of the month, and then you go, for 1 week in a month, and then you kind of have to be like all there. Another thing being on the officer side, because it's a lot of admin stuff, you find yourself doing a lot of stuff outside of that weekend. Making sure soldiers are, doing what they need to do, not, staying out of trouble, that kind of thing. So it's you almost kind of feel like a parent to like all your soldiers at some point, having to reach out between those battle assemblies. So it's hard to keep in touch with 30 soldiers when you only see them 3 days physically. So I'd say that's the biggest challenge. So it definitely, again, has its pros and cons as far as family stuff goes. So because you're away for a lot of the training that you do, that can definitely be a challenge. For me, I don't have kids, so that's not a big deal for me, but I know a lot of the soldiers who do have kids have to make, you know, pretty big sacrifices on some of those weekends, like they'll miss a birthday or, you know, a recital or something like that. So that can definitely be a challenge, but they do, at least my unit in particular, is very accommodating, and that it would depend unit to unit, but they are pretty accommodating when they can be, but it is a challenge for some things. I think the biggest thing for me is being able to work with like such a diverse group of people, because they're not soldiers 24/7 either. They have lives outside of the Army. So it's nice to be able to talk to, you know, a big group of people, get their different experiences. Coming in as a second lieutenant fresh out of college, you don't really know a whole lot. So you just went, you know, 4 years studying stuff, you know, for the Army for your degree, but then you go into your unit and there's still so much that you have no idea about. So it's nice to have those experienced people to be able to kind of rely on and have their experience rub off on you a little bit. So not to get like too political, but it is a little, like obviously times are changing now. So when I was in ROTC, we were learning all the counterinsurgency stuff, but we have different threats now in the world. So those are kind of the main things that are changing. So the way we train, how we train, what we train to do is all changing now. So the biggest thing, if you're in high school now, you know, junior, if you're a senior, you're kind of running out of time, but if you're a junior or below, reach out to, what I did was I reached out to universities that I was interested in, and then I got in contact with the Army recruiter there who was specifically for the ROTC program. He helped me fill out my application for my scholarship, for everything like that. The biggest thing is that they were looking for was being well-rounded in high school. You know, you can be a brainiac, but if you do nothing else, then you know, someone else who might not have that 4.0 GPA, but was involved with sports, was involved in like student government or something, you know, might take that spot. So I think being well-rounded and kind of researching what's all involved with it is really helpful, so you know what you're getting yourself into.